Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. I want to welcome all of the Brunswick County Schools parents for joining us. We've actually had a little series of webinars going on today for those of you who are joining us live. We actually just wrapped up our K-5 parent webinar, and this is now the grade 6 to 12 parent webinar. So thank you so much for being here, especially those of you who are joining us live, who've taken a little bit of time from your day to learn a bit about keeping your children safer online, what digital wellness means in the context of the online world, and all of that sort of good stuff. We do have a few members of staff from your district here as well. So I am going to invite Acacia to speak again, as she did for our first webinar, and just welcome you all aboard.
Welcome, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to officially welcome you to this parent webinar and to welcome you on behalf of both the digital learning team and all of the school admin at Brunswick County Schools. We welcome our parents to participate with us in making a safer environment, both virtually and face-to-face for our kids. And we hope that you take some information away from this. The K-5 session was amazing. And Theodora does a fabulous job. When she's finished at the very end, I'll share some contact information so you can send us any follow-up questions you may have directly to the district. And with that, I don't want to take away from her time because she's got some incredibly valuable information to share with you. So Theodora, take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much, Acacia. Thank you. Wonderful. So as we begin, the first thing I want to share with you is just a little bit of housekeeping. So just to let those of you who are joining us live know that we, of course, always love to take some of your questions, and it helps us understand what is going on sort of on the ground within different families' homes when we get these questions live. But we also want to make sure that you really do find this session helpful if you're joining us live. So if you would like to, we have our chat is open and it's been enabled. So if you would like to share your question that way, please feel free to do that as I'm talking. If you would just prefer to do that in a sort of more private setting, you also have that Q&A function that you can use as well. I will try my best if any questions or comments come up while I'm talking to take a look at them. As Acacia said, the last sort of few minutes of the webinar today, we will make sure to, if I can't address those questions sort of as I'm sharing my presentation with you, we'll make sure to take those last few minutes to address those. So please do feel free to share any kind of questions that you might have. We always absolutely encourage that, of course, on all of our webinars. So the first thing I want to do is just tell you a little bit sort of about who I am and who my team is and the organization that I'm coming from as well. So my name is Theodora Pavkovic. My background is in psychology, in parent coaching, and digital wellness and healthy technology use in particular. It's something that I've been focusing on in my work for the good part of the last sort of 6 to 7 years, as technology use and digital wellness have just become such a huge part of really all of our lives. And then, of course, over the past couple of years, our children's lives in particular. So I'm the director of community engagement at an organization called LineWise by Family Zone. And your school district has partnered with us in a lot of different really, really wonderful ways. But one of the ways is to bring you this digital wellness community program, to bring you this parent education around what digital wellness means really for our children, and how you as a parent play really a key role in making sure that your children stay safe as they're reaping all of the many wonderful benefits of the online world. Our community program has 3 sort of foundational pillars. The first one is the Online Safety Hub, which is really sort of, I like to refer to it as the star of the show. And I will be going through a sort of a short demo or a walkthrough of your district's Online Safety Hub towards the end of our presentation. That is really that main kind of central meeting point for all of the parents in your district to come together and to really get as many questions that you might have around your children's technology use answered. The second piece is our parent app, which is actually currently in beta. So it's not quite ready for sort of wider use yet. But once it is ready, what the app will be doing is really providing insights into your child's activity, which of course we know that a lot of parents would like to gain a lot more insight into what their sort of children's lives online look like, and what their children do when they're in some of these virtual spaces. And then finally, the third pillar is exactly what we're doing here right now, which is engage in these live parent webinars. Which I conduct live with all of our parent communities. They're really an opportunity to take a slightly deeper dive into some of these really pressing topics around safety and digital wellness and your children's online lives. And also, like I said before, to really address any of the questions that you might have, any comments that you have around any of the topics that I will be addressing today. And then finally, I want to say that, we work extensively with our parent communities with the United States, across the United States. But one of the most exciting things for me about our team is that we truly are a global international team, which I think is an incredibly important thing in today's world, especially as we're talking about online safety, because trends and features change very, very rapidly, and they change in different ways across the globe. And we need to make sure that we stay on top of all of these. And so that's really what we try to do as best as we can. We do truly cover the four corners of the globe at this point. So I'm based in the United States. We also have experts based in the UK, in Australia, and in New Zealand as well. And we have a really varied sort of professional background within our team. So some of us are psychologists like I am. We also have former teachers, tech teachers in particular. And we also have former protective services professionals, law enforcement professionals, and so on. People who can speak especially to some of those sort of deeper, darker issues that we know our children might potentially come across when it comes to their lives online. So I mentioned the Online Safety Hub, as I said, the star of the show, an incredible resource for your parent community. If you haven't visited the Online Safety Hub yet, this is your opportunity to do so right now. You can use this QR code if you'd like, and it will take you straight to your hub. If you would like to be a little bit sort of more old-fashioned, you can just use this simple URL in order to access it. Like I said, towards the end part of this webinar, I will be taking you through a little walkthrough of that hub. Just to get you kind of a little bit more familiarized with it, just so that you know what the different parts are within the hub, so that when you get there, you don't waste too much time sort of looking for answers to your questions, but you'll know exactly where you will get those answers that you need as quickly as possible. So in the interest of letting you know sort of what you can expect over the next perhaps sort of 25 to 30 minutes, I want to share with you the things that I'll be talking about. So this is what our agenda looks like. The first thing that I want to share with you is some of the key online safety risks that we've identified as online safety experts, and one which we really elaborate on to a great extent within the Online Safety Hub in the many pieces that we have there. The second is what we like to call the ABC approach to online safety management. What I mean by that isn't so much the technical aspect of that in terms of sort of setting up your home for safety in terms of sort of parental controls and privacy settings and such, although those are important too. And we do have pieces that will help you with that within the hub as well. What I'm talking about in terms of online safety management is really more that connection piece between yourself and your child, and that communication between you and your child, and how you can sort of address this topic with them to make sure that you can really help them stay safer as they're navigating this online world. And then, like I said, the final piece is going to be the walkthrough of the Online Safety Hub, just to, like I said before, make sure that you're familiarized and you know exactly sort of where to go depending on the types of questions that you might have. So let's go right in. Just want to make sure that my little clock here is all set. So the key online safety risks that we've sort of been identifying over the past perhaps decade or so haven't really changed in a drastic way. What we see are certain sort of changes within each one of these categories, but these still remain sort of the main ones that we're all facing and that we're all really focusing our efforts around when it comes to educating the community around what children might be experiencing online. So these are the 8 main ones. As I mentioned before, we just did a session prior with parents of slightly younger children in your district. And what we often find is that different age groups will face different risks at different times in their lives. And so I always make sure to highlight the ones that will be specifically relevant to this particular community of parents. And since your children are a little bit older, so we're looking at grades 6 through sort of 12, so we're talking about that whole sort of range of teenage years, as fun as it is, of course. Some of the issues that your children in particular might be facing will be things like pornography and sexual content. Online bullying is often a really big one. Gaming behaviors, and sexting and nudes would be the ones that I would sort of want to highlight this time around. So when it comes to pornography and sexual content, the one sort of main perspective shift that I want to share with you is, yes, we do find that a majority of young people today have seen some type of pornographic content online. We know that the statistics from the UK say that actually the average age at which children will encounter pornography online is about 8 or 9. Which of course can be absolutely terrifying for absolutely every parent. The one important thing to keep in mind is that an overwhelming majority of that population of children has actually stumbled upon this content inadvertently. They didn't stumble upon it because they were actually actively seeking it. And so that I find is often a really important perspective shift that gets parents to think a little bit differently in terms of how to communicate with their children about some of this content, so that we don't go immediately into sort of blaming kind of stance, but we really understand this is a very traumatic event for our child, and one that they really need a little bit of help around, and one that we perhaps need to support them in terms of moving forward in the future, how they can make sure to keep themselves as safe as possible when it comes to any kind of sort of explicit or sexual content online. Unfortunately, it can be something as innocent as your child typing in sort of something like kitty or even pussycat within Google. And of course, some of the search results that come up won't be the most appropriate for them, sort of no matter their age. So we do know that children, for the most part, stumble across this kind of information accidentally. And you will, of course, be able to find a lot more information around conversation starters in particular with this topic on the Online Safety Hub. Online bullying, as I mentioned, has been a big topic, especially over the past couple of years during the pandemic. This is one that I mentioned with our earlier group of parents as well. We do find that nearly 60% of teenagers in this country have experienced some form of online bullying. The one perspective shift for this particular risk that I always like sharing with parents is that what we also find is that an overwhelming majority of children who have these experiences online don't actually share them with their parents or their teachers or their coaches or any other trusted adult. And some of the research that has asked kids, well, why don't you? What do you feel is the barrier? They usually share two reasons. Number one, and both are fear related, by the way. So the first one is they're afraid that the device will immediately be taken away from them, that will be kind of the solution to the problem that you will bring to the table as the parent. The other one is that your kind of way of problem solving will be to say, well, why don't you just stop using that particular platform? Why don't you just shut down that app? Or why do you not just stop playing that game anymore? And what we find is that for children, that isn't the optimal resolution to the problem. So the perspective shift I want to offer you here is to just make sure through the conversations that you have with your child around their tech use and staying safe online, that you do manage to get it across to them in whichever way you find is most appropriate. That won't necessarily be your immediate kind of off the cuff idea in terms of how to problem solve that issue, and that you will actually ask them what the ideal outcome is for them. And sometimes it may well be, I just want to stay off Instagram for about a month, or I saw a challenge someone was doing somewhere to not open Snapchat for a whole week. I want to try that. That very well might be the idea that they come across as well. But sometimes it might be a little bit more nuanced. They'll still want to stay on that platform because, as I said before, the virtual world has a lot of benefits to provide to our kids, especially during the pandemic. It's really been that lifeline in terms of their sort of social lives. So we want to make sure that we don't throw all of it out. I don't like that saying, but you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I think that's incredibly important when it comes to this question of how do we resolve online bullying issues for our kids. I mentioned gaming and gaming behaviors as well. This is another big question, especially during the past couple of years that parents have had in terms of how much gaming is healthy. Is it even healthy? A lot of it is. So the sort of short answer to that would be yes. We do know that gaming to a certain extent can be beneficial. It can even benefit children's sort of perceptive skills, their spatial awareness, their ability to collaborate with others, their ability to problem solve. So we're talking about a lot of cognitive developmental skills that can be built from engaging with some of these platforms. We do, of course, know the flip side is that some of these can potentially be risky. They can potentially be dangerous, even sort of relatively tame looking ones like Roblox, for example. The one tip sort of that I will share here is, well, two tips. One is to remember that there are benefits to gaming as well. For a lot of children, this is a way of staying social and being social with their friends. So that's the one thing. The other thing is that there are risks involved, especially in games that have a live chat option. So that's something that you always want to look out for if you are concerned. Something that you can talk to your child about in terms of what does the chat function look like in this game? Do you tend to use it frequently? Have you ever experienced that a stranger or some unwanted person actually tried to reach out to you through this live chat function? And then you can talk to them a little bit in terms of how to problem solve that. Will it involve parental controls? Are there sort of other ways in which your child can manage that issue so that, again, they remain on the platform to reap all of those positive benefits, but they make sure to kind of lessen the risks. And actually, I lied. There's a third tip there that I want to share with you as well, which is to co-play with your children as much as possible. If they love Roblox or they love Fortnite, or you have the Xbox, you have Nintendo, whatever it is, there are lots of ways in which sort of families can engage together in really wonderful way. We often recommend that when it comes to TV viewing, when it comes to movies and cartoons and television shows, reading books as well. This is another area where you can really bond together as a family in a really beautiful way. It's just about sort of negotiating what game it's going to be, what platform it's going to be, and how much time you're going to spend doing that together as a family. But there's definitely a lot of opportunities there for connection and for bonding. The final one that I just want to sort of touch upon before we move into to some of those approaches to maintaining online safety within your family, with your kids, is sexting and nudes, because of course any parent of a teenager today is very concerned about that. When it comes to sexting and nudes, we do find that sort of children of a younger age are starting to participate in this. So we're seeing some statistics saying that even children as young as sort of 11 are participating in this. There are some sort of major legal issues involved there. So while for a lot of other incidents that happen online, we always encourage parents to take screenshots and to make sure to then share them either with the school, with law enforcement, with that particular platform. So whoever it is that you're reaching out to for help. When it comes to nudes in particular, there are a lot of legal implications around kind of owning or having inappropriate photographs of underage children on your phone, even if they are your own children. So again, we'll encourage you to go to the Online Safety Hub to find a little bit more information about that particular risk. And then, of course, depending on the city and the state that parents live in, we always want to recommend that they make sure that they're following whatever the laws are in that particular state. But the one final thing I'll say about that, very much aligned with the kind of pornography and sexual content issue, is that we often find that children don't necessarily share sort of sexually natured messages or images on purpose. They don't often do that intentionally. A lot of the time, they're either kind of talked into it. There's a little bit of peer pressure going on there. Things that have been true for teenagers for many years. It's just that now there's this new platform on which all of that can play out. So that's a really important thing, I think, to keep in mind as well. So moving on now into, like I said, what we refer to as the ABC approach to online safety management. What ABC essentially stands for is managing your child's access to their devices in the online world, setting up some healthy boundaries around these, and then finally openly communicating, which is probably one of the most important things that you can do with your child when it comes to really any topic sort of around their adolescence, but especially when it comes to their online lives. So when we talk about managing access, we're really talking about not only what your child has access to on that particular device and which device they have access to, but really when they have access to it and for how long. And so some of the tips that we share here is, for one, to always use parental controls in order to manage that access and manage the amount of time that they spend on that particular device or on that particular app or platform. Another one is, and you can use the Online Safety Hub for this, to find out what some of the age recommendations and restrictions are for different platforms. This is one very big knowledge gap that I often find with parents, where I find that oftentimes they don't actually realize that there is such a thing as age restrictions and recommendations. And these do exist for absolutely every single platform that you can think of today. For the most part, it is 13 and above. You will find that to be the case for most social media apps, for most gaming apps as well. So you can see here on the left-hand side of your screen an example of what our app and game review section looks like, and I'll show you that in a little bit when I walk you through the hub. But this is where you'll be able to find not only the App Store rating, but you'll be able to find out what our recommendation as the online safety experts is in terms of the age below which we really don't think it's ideal for your child to be accessing this particular app or platform. And then finally, something that can sound very scary for not so tech savvy parents, but we've got you covered there as well, is to turn on any kind of internet filters that are available, enable things like Google Safe Search, YouTube restricted mode. And again, I will show you where you can find some information about how to do that. That's housed within our cyber safety tech section within the Online Safety Hub. Of course, the second sort of really key thing here is to make sure to set healthy boundaries around all of this. So clear boundaries around, yes, screen time, around what children are doing when they're on that screen, but also a sort of more nuanced approach to talking about what are the behaviors that I expect of you when you're online. We often talk to children about this when it comes to their offline behaviors. We talk about how do we communicate with other people. You may have expectations around how they speak to the elderly. There's just so many different things. We need to increasingly start talking about the same sort of layout when it comes to their behavior online as well. And so some of the main tips that we have here, for one, is to use digital contracts. Again, I will show you where these are housed within the Online Safety Hub to really make sure that you make this as easy as possible for everyone in the household to set up some of those clear rules around those expectations in terms of device use and in terms of online behavior as well. To really very clearly, again, clarity is so important here, but to identify those clear off times when it comes to nighttime in particular, to limiting device use in bedrooms. That's one of the biggest recommendations that we give. And one of the key reasons for this is to do with one of those online safety risks that I showed you earlier. And it's mainly the grooming one. What we do within kind of the parent education component of online grooming is we want to make sure that we understand first what sort of types of behaviors the groomers themselves look for, so that we can then educate the parents and the children themselves to make sure that they stay safer. So what we find is this is one of the key behaviors that they tend to look for in terms of sort of finding their victim. And it's children who spend a lot of time, especially at night, using their devices in isolation without any parental supervision. So that's really one of the key reasons why. There are many others, of course. It can affect children's sleep time. It can affect their ability to just sort of wind down and relax, to kind of tune out, to get some good sleep, to consolidate everything that they've learned during the day, and all of these things. There are plenty of benefits to that. The one thing I will say that is very important when it comes to setting really any of these boundaries is to make sure that you model those behaviors yourself as well as sort of the adult or the parent in the household. Children look to us all the time to learn what boundaries are around pretty much everything that they do in their daily lives. Where do I put my shoes? Although sometimes they then don't do that, but where's the appropriate place to put down my shoes and my socks? How much food and when can I have it? What types of drinks can I have? Rules around cleanliness, brushing my teeth, going to bed. They look to us and they observe how we do different things in the world, and then they emulate those same behaviors. And the same is absolutely true when it comes to using technology, they look at us and they look at the frequency with which we use our devices. And they often walk away thinking, well, what's the big deal? You're doing it too, so why can't I do it as well? So when it comes to some of these, the kind of rules and expectations that you set in place, if it is things like we're not going to use our devices at dinner or breakfast or lunch, we're not going to keep our technology in our bedrooms, it's incredibly important. And I can't stress enough how important it is that you make sure to do those same things as well. What I also always encourage parents to do when it comes to setting up these digital contracts, especially when you have older teens, is to ask them what are their expectations of your behavior when it comes to the online world. And it can be things like, well, I would love it if you weren't on your laptop during dinner. Or it can be things like, I really wish you would stop posting photos of me on Instagram, right? So it can be a whole range of things. And I know you might have a little bit of fear around kind of opening up that Pandora's box, but it can really go a long way in terms of getting on side with your child and getting them on side with you to set up some of these healthy boundaries when it comes to technology use. And the third and final step is really all about communication. That's what all of this is about, really making this topic a frequent conversation point, a talking point in your home. We find that children who report the highest levels of well-being as a result of what they're doing online, and the children who report the lowest sort of rates of online bullying are the children who live in homes where this is talked about an awful lot, and it is a frequent talking point. So we always encourage parents to do that as much as possible, to really show them that you're positively engaged in their online life, that you don't just ask them, how was the bus ride home? You also ask them, what happened on Instagram today, or how was Snapchat, or did you see anything on there that was frustrating or annoying, or was there something on there that scared you? I think especially during the past couple of years, there's been a lot of fear that's been coming through pretty much every social media platform. The news have consistently been horrible for what seems now like forever. And I'm sure children have a lot to share with us if we just ask them around their online experiences. And then finally, in terms of some communication strategies that I like to share, things like problem solving, which doesn't necessarily mean that we solve the problem, but we really ask our child, how can I help you solve this problem? What would be the best sort of ultimate outcome for you, and how can I help you achieve that? Leaving a little bit of space for them, not filling in those silences, letting them sit in their discomfort for a little bit. You might be amazed to see kind of what comes out. And then also making sure that we really are on side with them, that we're talking with them, that we're not talking at them. It can be very hard for all of us who are teachers and coaches and psychologists and parents to really do that, because we so desperately want to help them and we think we have the right answer. Oftentimes we find that they, especially as they get into their teenage years, they really push back on that. They really don't like that. So we want to try and talk with them as much as we possibly can. So with that, I am going to switch over to your district's online safety hub. Again, if you have any questions right now, please feel free to share them either in the chat or in the Q&A. I'll make sure to address those. So this is the Online Safety Hub. Welcome. If you haven't been here, if this is your first time, you can see here that you have a little welcome message from your district. And then I want to point your direction to this tab up here, or to these tabs rather. I want to give you just a taste for each one of them, just so you know what types of topics and answers you can find to your questions within each section, so that you just have a better sense of what's waiting for you there. So you can see here that we have these 4 sections along the left-hand side. We have our hot topics section, which is where we really dive into some of the most current topics that are really relevant to families in this moment. So you'll see here that we have at-home learning, which of course has been a very relevant topic for, it seems like, a very long time at this point. We have a piece on Minecraft versus Roblox, and kind of how you can make a decision between these two, and a whole host of other topics here. This is one of the most dynamic parts of the hub that switches up all of the time depending on whatever sort of the trending topics and trending issues are among families. The starting out section is one I highlighted with our younger group of parents, so that's sort of K to 5. You still may find that this is relevant for you as well, depending on where you and your child are in terms of their sort of online journey. You might still need some help in terms of conversation starters. I can show you what the cyberbullying one looks like in particular. We often find that parents desperately want to breach these subjects with their children, but oftentimes they don't quite know where to start. And remember that in most instances, children themselves won't proactively share any experiences of cyberbullying or online bullying with you. So it probably will need to be you who will take that proactive approach in order to sort of get them talking a little bit about either whether they've kind of witnessed cyberbullying happen to somebody else or whether they were somehow involved in it as well. And of course, because the conversation varies depending on age, what you'll first want to do is select your child's age here. And then you'll see that, from number 2 onward, the section will change depending on how old your child is. So I encourage you to go in there and explore those. You will also you might find relevant in terms of sort of your child's first venture into owning a smartphone, being on social media, testing out messaging apps. And then this is where we have some of our rules and agreements. I mentioned setting a digital agreement with you earlier. I'll just click on this piece so that I can give you a little bit of a sense of what it looks like. But again, we've kind of separated these digital agreements out based on the age group. So you will be able to find the age group that is relevant for you and your child. You may find that you can use 2 separate agreements for children who are, 4+ years apart within your home as well. But what we've done with that one is we've laid out a few different PDFs that you can open up, that you can download, and then you can bring those to your children. I will show you this 15 years and above one. And you can discuss with them some of these sort of the examples that we've laid out here in terms of some of the rules that you can implement. I apologize for my slower loading speed today. I'll show you where those rules are just as soon as this loads. So there we go. So we have a lot of suggestions here that you can use with your child. If your child is 15 and older, this definitely needs to be a collaborative effort with them. It needs to be a conversation, a back and forth around, which one of these sound doable to you, which ones sound reasonable. Of course, you are unlikely to agree, probably at least at first, on what would be doable and what would be reasonable for their particular age group. But that's why we find that these digital contracts can be incredibly helpful for families, because it really gives you that opportunity to have an open conversation about this if you haven't done that yet. And we always sort of encourage a sort of healthy negotiation when it comes to setting up some of these boundaries. And of course, letting your kids know, especially if you look here, if they're in this section right now and they're maybe 7 or 8, to let them know that, look, this isn't going to be like that, forever. Once you're a little bit older, we're going to renegotiate this. We're going to talk about some of the changes that are happening in the online world, within your social circle. And of course, we can break some of the rules. We can expand some of the boundaries. We can change things. This isn't fixed. I like to say that these rules around children's behavior online have to change in the same way that we have to keep buying them bigger size clothes as they get older, right? Because that one size is not going to fit them their whole lives. If you go into the information and guide section, we have our slightly longer form pieces here. So you'll be able to find some guides around cyberbullying. These are some of the basically major safety risks that I was talking to you about earlier. So you'll be able to find some guidelines around these. You'll find deep dives on some of the main platforms that children are on today. And again, these are updated every few months because there's constantly sort of new behaviors that we see on these platforms, but the platforms are also trying to sort of catch up and create some positive change as well. We have to give them a little bit of credit for that. So that's a section that changes quite frequently, as well as these blogs and articles. So you can see that we have some really current topics here, such as teens trading cryptocurrency. This is another section which is a little bit more informational as opposed to educational, but you'll be able to find information about some of the most current sort of trending topics within sort of the general online world when it comes to your kids in this section. And then finally, the I need help area is really where you'll be coming to if you very specifically know exactly what your issue is and you need help around that. So you'll see that we have that dealing with issues section here on the left-hand side, reporting incidents, which I always encourage parents to educate themselves about, especially parents of teenagers. If something happens on social media, you need to know where to go and how to report that. So you'll see here that we provide you within these pieces links to all of these different platforms where you and your child can go to report incidents. And then this is a section where we have, and I'll just click on the mental health support area so that I can show it to you. We would love to be able to help and support our parent communities in absolutely every way possible. Of course, we know that we can't do that. And so what we've done with that educational resources and mental health support section is we've linked up some of the many free resources that you'll be able to find that will be able to sort of help you in ways that we perhaps can't. So anything to do around counseling, any topics around potential, suicide crisis, bullying issues, sexual abuse and violence, you'll be able to see here that we have a whole host of them here, and you'll be able to find these useful filters along the left-hand side so that you can sort of quickly find whatever it is that you or your child are looking for. The one other really important feature here I want to share with you is this request new article button. If you find that any of the information here doesn't quite address what you were hoping it would address, or you think of something entirely different and new that we haven't really addressed at all yet, I highly encourage you to click on this request new article button. You can let us know what the topic is and the information that you would like us to write about. And once you hit submit, what happens is this comes through to myself, our team of experts and content creators, and we start working on that piece as soon as we can. We have, of course, an extensive content creation calendar that we keep up throughout the year. So I really encourage you to use that as a way of kind of directly communicating with myself and the rest of my team around any topics that you maybe feel we haven't quite addressed. So the cyber safety tech area rather, I'll just very briefly show you. I will click on this YouTube restricted mode piece because I mentioned that earlier. Like I said, this is that area for when you just really want very straightforward, simple steps to how do I set up parental controls and how do I just make this safer for my child? I don't want to spend a lot of time doing this. You can see this is Jess, who's one of our experts. She's actually based in Australia. Every piece will also show you when it was last modified so that you have a good sense of kind of the recency of the update. And you can see here that we have a very simple system for enabling you to make these platforms safer, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Google, whether you're working with a Mac or you're working with any other device or any other operational system. So that's the cyber safety tech area. And then third and final, before we wrap up, I just quickly want to show you the app and game reviews, and I will show you one review as an example. Earlier on, I showed you that when it comes to kind of creating some of the healthy boundaries, one of the most important things to know is those age restrictions. And so I'll go into the TikTok one just to give you a sense of what it looks like. We do have at this point over, I think, something like 220 reviews that we've done of different apps and platforms and games. If that's really all that you're sort of interested in, your child has either been asking for a particular app or you've kind of caught them using it, even though they didn't tell you that they were there, this will be the area for you to come. You'll be able to use that search bar to search for the particular app or platform that you're looking for. Remember, again, if you don't find it, please feel free to click here, request a new article, and ask us to do a review on that particular platform. But you'll be able to find a lot of different content here that will suit you depending on how much time and interest you have. So we have a little soundbite that's very quick. We have that age recommendation, a little description of the platform, and then we run all of our reviews through this known risks panel, where you'll be able to just very quickly look and have an immediate understanding of, okay, TikTok is going to be an issue in terms of privacy and security and privacy and security and adult content. That is going to be a main issue. And of course, screen time can be a little bit of an issue there as well. So that gives you that just very quick sort of feel for what the app is like. We share some of its features with you here. And then this is the what parents need to know section where we talk to you about some of the main sort of features and issues when it comes to that particular platform. With these really simple drop downs. We have the what users need to know section, which is really the area for either you, if you want to use the platform itself so that you understand what some of the sort of ins and outs are. But this is also the perfect section of the review to share with your child and read it together with them and say, I know that these are some of the issues that might come up on the platform. Have you come across any of these? So things like negative comments. Is this something that you've experienced before? Let's talk about it a little bit and find ways in which we can maybe make sure that you avoid those in the future. And then finally, the question that I always tell our parents, the ultimate question we always want to answer with all of our content is, okay, first of all, what do I do now with this information? And second of all, how do I make this better for my child, or how do I make this safer, right? That's the ultimate question every parent has. We always address that at the bottom of every one of our pieces that are very practically oriented, like these app and game reviews. So this is where we help you maximize privacy settings, do things like set up family pairing as well. So some platforms like TikTok do have specific parental controls that we can truly call parental controls, which is a designated area where you can go in and make sure that you link this platform up between yourself and your child, so that you can make sure you sort of have a better insight into what they are doing. Oh, a wonderful comment here. Sorry, I was distracted by that little notification that came out. Oh, wonderful. Yes. Oh, absolutely, James. Yes. So James was asking about, first of all, sharing some lovely compliments, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. We are recording this session, absolutely. And so I'm sure Acacia was going to share that with you towards the end anyway, but we are recording this session the same way that we did our K-5 session as well. And this will live within your district's website. And there may be some other places that you may want to share it as well, but this will absolutely be accessible to you for a very long time. What we like to do is, and this is something that we do within my team, is just to make sure that all the information I share with you in this webinar is current. So say if in 6 months' time I find that something that I shared with you is really out of date, what we'll try and do then is do another webinar so that I can make sure that I'm giving you the most current information. But other than that, this webinar will be up there and will be fine to share with your whole district and any friends you have and any family members and absolutely anybody else who you wish. So I think I'll wrap up there. I could talk about this topic, as I'm sure you can tell, for a very long time, but I'm going to let Acacia now do our little outro and just let you know who you can contact if you have any further information or any questions.
Theodora, thank you so much for
Sure.
your wealth of expertise and the resources and the platform you've provided us. LineWise is a valuable partner, and we appreciate that. Parents, yes, this will be posted on our website. We will probably also send out social media posts with that information later tomorrow or later in the week. So we will have it ready for you as soon as we get the videos, and probably get those uploaded tomorrow for your access. The hub is linked off of our webpage. And then if you have any follow-up questions or comments or things you want to share with us, by all means, I'm the Director of Digital Learning for Brunswick County Schools. You are welcome to email me directly. It's adixon, ADIXON, at bcswan.net. That's bcswan.net. So that you can do that. You can also call the central office, 910-253-2900, and they'll be happy to connect you with my offices. And we have a digital learning team that supports all of our parents and students and teachers across the county that would welcome any suggestions that you have or comments. Speaking of which, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Sherry Wood, who is the digital learning specialist who organized all of this and works directly with ClassWise and LineWise and with Theodora in doing this. So thank you to her. And we look forward to hearing from all of you. Again, we will post it tomorrow. And Theodora, thank you so much for your wealth of information.
Absolutely, Acacia. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you to all of our parents who joined us live. Thank you so much for all of you who are watching a recording of this. And again, I just want to echo that same sentiment. Again, please let us know if there's any other information that we can possibly share with you. We're here for you 24/7 through this digital wellness community program. Our ultimate goal and mission is really to keep children safe online. And so we're thrilled to be able to do that for you any way we can. So thank you all again so much.